hats and are loaded with 2 schedules, usually, everyone claiming rights over us. Bismillah, regarding the student, we are still working on the thesis. I just wanted to make that note. She is a very brave and hardworking student. She has 2 children. She had a new baby about 3 months ago, and she has been struggling, and she did a lot of effort, and we are still doing some more effort here and there, bits and pieces here and there, especially on the theoretical part. This is one piece of information. She's based in Germany. She went back to her family. She's a Syrian. And the second issue is that the scholarship that the student got was via a project of cooperation between the university and a think tank. And they provided the scholarship, so they would be interested in attending. They will be closing the camera, but maybe at the end of the session, they might want to sort of say something or so. So our international office asked me if they can attend, and then at the end, sort of say something in this regard. So I'm just taking your permission to do that, because I said that I need to tell you about that. So is it okay with you? They will not be intervening at all. They will just listen and maybe at the end say, they are happy with the cooperation or something. That's it. Tamam? Okay, so can you please let everyone in, Neslihan Hanım?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, she's connecting now under the name of Amir. Or Sana. Are you here, Sana?
By the way, Prof. Hossein, nice meeting you. Until everyone else is joining. Nice meeting you, Professor Hossein. Inshallah, we'll be meeting again related to one of our students' thesis on the 10th, if I'm not mistaken.
Inshallah, Professor.
Inshallah, yeah. Good to see you.
Do you plan to come, Professor Wahabuddin? Are you planning to come over?
I'm really not sure about the situation and my family condition as well, because
Okay.
I'm afraid if I just come in, I'll be stuck there. I can't move in back here, and my wife is not.
Yeah.
So I requested this semester if I can be online.
To teach online. Yeah, the option is there.
Yeah, I'll be online this semester. Hopefully, I would love to come to Istanbul.
Inshallah.
I missed everything, but sometimes tells you to stay.
Inshallah, we'll meet you.
Okay, Prof, we can proceed whatever the procedure you have.
Okay, so we are starting now with Sana. Hello, Sana, how is everything? Please do your presentation in 10 to 15 minutes, highlighting the main points and the research question and methodology, etc. And then we will give the floor to the professors, the jury. Okay, go ahead, please. You can share your screen.
Thanks a lot. I'm going to share the screen now.
Okay.
Okay. Is it obvious now?
No. Neslihan Hanım, can you please make sure that she has access to sharing screen?
We have tried, but
Excuse me?
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
we can see it now. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Sana.
Okay. I'm sorry, it's taking a little bit of time.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. Go ahead. We can see it now.
Yeah. Okay. So, is ethnic cleansing happening in Syria? This is the title of my thesis. Oh, sorry, my laptop is a bit slow. Okay, so before I start, I would like to mention a little bit points about the thesis. This study aimed to describe best what happened in Syria during 2011-2020 on the demographic and population levels. So that means that this study does not focus on all sides of the conflict, but only those related to the main topic. The study will not discuss the role of ISIS or terrorist movements. The research questions is how can we describe what's happening in Syria? How can we distinguish between different types of crimes? And how do Syrian intellectuals classify the conflict? Okay, so regarding the methodology and challenges, first I would like to mention the challenge, the main challenge that I have faced, which is the lack of accurate data about the population, the Syrian population, and the casualties. So the Syrian government keeps that kind of data as a secret. Of course, we have an alternative source, which is the NGOs, the Syrian NGOs, but they don't have the whole picture. Okay, so to come up this challenge I have faced, my methodology, I have chosen to go on with conceptual analysis, the historical context of Syria, and in-depth interviews with 4 Syrian politicians to have the data I want to make my source. Okay. So the Syrian war has been going since 2011 until today. The population before the war broke out was 21 million. Since 2011, there has been more than 500,000 killed. There is 6.7 million internally displaced and 6.6 million Syrian refugees, which means that 13 million out of 21 million are forced to leave their houses. So 5 out of each 8 Syrians. And there's, in addition to this, unknown number of detainees and missed persons, estimated to be hundreds of thousands, according to the Syrian NGOs. So the problem of the study, Sunni in Syria shape a majority, about 76%. This is an official statement by the government in 1985. And of course, there we have the minorities. Most of the victims are Sunnis. The regime strategy against Sunni areas includes siege and depopulation, chemical weapons, bombardment and shelling, and detention and torture. And it's obvious, of course, that the regime are targeting Sunnis areas and the Sunnis victims. Okay. Settlement of Shia, yes, there has been reports and witnesses referring to a settlement in some of the evacuated areas, which used to be Sunni areas. And their numbers are unknown because, of course, it's data only available at the government sources. And the government is blocking the return of the refugees and displaced by military means and new law issuance. So how does this affect the future of Syria? First, by a new demography that is likely to give legitimacy for the current regime, a frozen dilemma of refugees, a protractable conflict in Syria, the emergence of a gap between the Syrian reality and the international legal concept if we cannot find the legal description to what's happening, and an increase in terrorism wave. Because when people find that their rights are not provided by law, they will turn to alternative ways. So the aim of this study is how to describe best what's going on in Syria. And as I said, we are going to go through a conceptual analysis. Why? Because it is important to differentiate between the nuances and meaning of every term is used. So there is in the international law articles about the crimes of genocide, aggression, war, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and so on. But the international system is very selective to describe something as a genocide, for example, or not. Because language is a game. So when we say, for example, in Syria, there is an armed conflict or a civil war, we are imagining something and acting in accordance. When we say that we have terrorism or radical movements, again, the same thing. And probably we are justifying for the perpetrators, whatever they're doing, because they are facing a terrorist. But when we say, for example, there's a genocide or ethnic cleansing, we cannot morally justify what's happening in Syria. So this, and then we act in accordance again. So it's very important to find that the accurate legal concept about what's going on. So what we know about Syria, there has been a mass murder. So to know the best concept, we need to answer these questions. So there has been a mass murder. Are those who are dying as civilians or combatants? They are civilians, so it's not a war or a battle. Is it an incident or a series? It's not an incident, it's a series, so this is not a massacre. Is the intention to eliminate or displacement? Are the areas are being evacuated, or it is to kill every one of these group? So again, it's not a genocide, it's not the Holocaust, because the areas are evacuated. And the last question is there a new population settled in evacuated areas? Yes. So it's an ethnic cleansing. And I would like here to mention the definition of ethnic cleansing, so we can go on. Ethnic cleansing is rendering an area ethnically homogeneous by using force or intimidation to remove persons of different groups from the area. So, but what if not ethnic? Before I go on this point, I would like to stop a little bit on the homogeneous word to remind you of two statements done by Assad, one in 2015, when he said Syria is not to those who carry its passports, Syria is to those who defend it regardless of their nationalities. In 2017, he said another statement. He said, we have lost our youths and our country is destroyed, but we have gained a more homogeneous, healthy society. So he used the word homogeneous. And it's important for us to know later what is the obstacle to homogeneous in his thinking. So, but what if not ethnic? The purpose of ethnic cleansing, according to the definition, is to create a homogeneous population with a certain territory. But again, homogeneous could be like based on, for example, class, religion, sect, or political opinion. So any bond that essentially shape the people's identity and their life features. So these are concepts mentioned by these scholars, and they are referring to cleansing, but not only on the base of ethnic, but also class, politics, and as we mentioned. So in Syria, a historical context, I'm going to give an overview, and it's on 3 periods. So first during the French Mandate, second after the independence, and finally the stabilized Terrain Syria. So first, during the French Mandate, there is an heritage of colonialism. So France mainly constructed a nation state. The borders of current Syria was drawn in Sykes-Picot Agreement. The mandate pursued a discriminatory policies. So for example, they planned to divide Syria for 4 states based on state of Aleppo, state of Damascus, and a state of Alawite, and state of Jews, though they are minorities. And they pursued a sectarian policy in the army and in a disproportionate way. So the minorities were preferred and the majority was marginalized. And they created a security dilemma due to uncertainty of loyalty to French among sects. And this, of course, the security dilemma continued afterwards. The new terms that has been introduced by the colonialism was related to the nation state was majority and minority, and citizenship based on ethno-national identity. The results are often toxic visions of national belonging, as Robson says. After the independence, there has been a series of military coups. So 10 or 11 military coups took place in Syria within 20 years or so. So it has been a lot of instability and so on. Finally, Ba'ath Party took over the power since 1963 and then declared the state of emergency, which by the way continued until 2012. And the Ba'ath Party, which is consisted mainly of minorities, especially Alawite, has several clashes with Sunni majority in Syria. So let's look at this diagram. We have an army and a government. Due to Ba'ath Party, this what happened. We have a disproportion in percentage. So the army and the government is consisted mainly of minorities, and they are in key position and strategic positions. This led to a struggle for power and a security dilemma, which are 2 factors affecting each other, and led finally to the cleansing process. And we may ask if this is happening to the population nowadays. So there is a disproportion in percentage, but upside down. So it's the minority cleansing the majority and not the other way around. And there's a struggle for power, security dilemma, and finally the cleansing process. But we're going to mention this. This is a diagram about Ba'ath membership, how it's increased after the Ba'ath did the military coup. And then let's go to the stabilized tyrannized Syria, which is the last period since 1970 when Hafez Assad took over the power. Let's look at this timeline. So in 1963, the Ba'ath Party made the military coup and he declared the state of emergency. And then we have this period, which is an intra-party clashes. And then in 1970, Assad made the corrective movement and took over the power and then reconstructed the constitution of Syria to make sure that the structure of power is absolutely in his own hands, like a one-man rule only. And then we have, since 1980, there is an age of terror who started in Syria because the herbicide of Hama and the events before and afterwards occurred here. And the result was that the Sunni found that their basic daily religious activities are closely reported, for example, and many felt the threat to, for example, pray in a mosque or wear a hijab. So, as I said, the power structured in Assad government and Assad hand. Okay. So the cleansing process, the current crisis, before I would start talking about this, I would like to show this diagram. It's about the Iranian-Syrian relation pre the crisis. So there has been a very close alliance, and as we will see, it affected very much the cleansing process. And there has been a Shiitization a little bit in Syria, like the religious activities of Shia was very promoted, very regarded by the government. But for example, the Sunni could not do or dream to have such religious activities as such. The timeline of the crisis, let's have a look. So this line shows the victims number since the beginning of the crisis and until 2020. And here is whenever a new party is introduced to the crisis. And we can see that when a new party entered the crisis, the victim number increased like dramatically, okay? And of course, this line shows the negotiation rounds. Unfortunately, they led to nothing at the end. Okay. Basically, the regime strategy in the crisis during the Syrian crisis. So first, the regime pursued a stick and carrot strategy, and this is at the very beginning. And he blurred the boundaries and formed a bloc of minorities. And it's very essential to us to see how Assad portrayed his enemies. How did the regime portray the image of his enemies? So he always focused that they are backwarded, they are Salafis, they are fundamentalists, radicalists, terrorists. Like these terms were very much used, and like we will see how these portray is an obstacle to homogeneous society in Assad's thinking. The second strategy is the security solution strategy, and then we have the military solution strategy, and then the foreign Iranian-backed militia direct intervention through the massacres and in the herbicide, which started also in 2012. And lastly, we see the process, which is basically to siege the area and then to starve the area and then evacuate it and then block the return of these people and then resettlement. But that the last step did not always happen in these areas. So some areas were resettled and some of them are still evacuated until today. Okay, so this is a cleansing, yes, but of who? Who are being cleansed? What is the common factors of the area that were sieged and evacuated? There are two factors combined, Sunnism and opposing the regime. So it's not all Sunnis because some Sunnis are in Assad government and Assad has no problem with them and the regime does not have a problem with them. And not everyone who opposed the regime faced this because some areas opposed the regime but were not evacuated. So for example, we can remember that in 2018, Asweda, which is a city of Druze in Syria, it opposed the regime and it was suppressed accordingly, but they were not evacuated, they were not sieged, they did not face any kind of what's happened to other Sunnis areas. So how to link between these two factors? type of Sunnism. Let's remember again, how did Assad portray his enemies? There's a distinction between accepted Sunnis and the one that were not allowed room in the socio-political context. So the unaccepted Sunni practice was the backwarded one, namely any understanding of religion other than the state rhetoric. This was the way the regime labeled any group that found a fundamental contradiction between Islam and despotism. So the Sunni Islam that does not legalize Assad rule, that does not legalize dictatorship, is the one which should be cleansed. So is this a civicide, as a cleansing based on civilization, as Apadori mentioned it? Yes, because if we consider this version of Sunnism as a civilization, it will be yes. There is a reason why one can call what happened to the Sunni communities as civicide if we want to examine their vision of Islam as a civilization, as different and more comprehensive than the mere political ideology they were seen to be adhered to. And thank you for your attention. I hope I did not take too much.
Thank you very much, Sana. Okay, should we start by Professor Hussein?
Okay, thank you, Professor.
You can stop sharing the screen, Sana, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Sana, thank you very much, and congratulations to complete your manuscript. And it's highly important topic, by the way. And I'm very glad to read such a manuscript. Even I benefited too much. But of course, I have some questions and recommendations, and even a few criticisms. And here, let me ask you, what's your final decision regarding to your main question? Is it really an ethnic cleansing in Syria? So there are massacres in Syria throughout the uprisings process, and even since 2011. However, I'm not sure whether it's enough to call it as an ethnic cleansing. And so we know the Syrian regime, the Assad regime, killed many innocent Sunni people and in Sunni areas. But the regime killed them as they are Sunni or as they are anti-Ba'athist or anti-regime blocs. So I think it's very crucial question to discuss your main argument. Otherwise, we cannot directly call the what's going on in Syria as ethnic cleansing. So as far as I know, the percentage of Sunni members of Ba'ath party is highly more than Alawites or Nusayri or Durzi members of the party, comparing to the population percentage. And that's why I really want to hear your answer to your main question. And also, I want to know why you defined Syrian regime as a totalitarian regime. So you should explain it if it is really a totalitarian regime from comparative politics perspective. There is no doubt that Syrian regime is an authoritarian regime, but authoritarian regime is not enough, or calling a regime as authoritarian regime as a totalitarian regime. So there are other requirements to make it as a totalitarian regime. So you should be sure that Syrian regime as a totalitarian regime. So I haven't seen any extra explanation or argument why you prefer to call it as a totalitarian regime. Okay, even you can compare if you think that Assad regime or Syrian regime is a totalitarian regime. So you need to explain it by referring to real totalitarian examples in the theoretical frame of comparative politics, like Soviet Union or even maybe Nazi Germany or Mussolini Italy. Okay. And furthermore, I wish you could more discuss how Hafez Assad legitimized his authoritarian regime in Syria by referring to his functional maneuvers or discursive strategies. I think he used Islam or religion as a very functional instrument to consolidate his power. And even when we look at the Syrian constitution of 1973, the Article 3 says that Din Ra'is al-Dawla al-Islam, the religion of the state is Islam. And the second part of the third article, Fiqh al-Asasi, Fiqh al-Islami Masdar Ra'is al-Tashri'. Islamic jurisprudence is the main source of the legislation. So actually on the paper, Syria is a Sharia state from the constitutional perspective, but in practical sphere, the situation is, or the picture is totally different. And that's why you could use how he legitimized himself by referring to Islamic codes or even anti-Israeli discourse. So we know Hafez Assad in his discursive strategy, he was against Israel, but also he didn't miss any chance to make a deal with Israel when he was in power. So I would also make a little contribution to your foreign policy discussion. You just focus on Syrian Soviet relation in international relations scale. However, when we look at the Hafez Assad's foreign policy mentality, we clearly see that he was a very pragmatic person in international relations. And at the end of the Cold War, with the collapse of Soviet Union, he gave an interview to BBC in 1991, and he made a clear explanation to them. We had close relations with Soviet Union, but we were not the orbit of Soviet Union. We had also we made also good deals, close relations with the United States. And when we look at the political history, we clearly see either the presidents of United States, vice presidents, or secretaries of state met with Hafez Assad or his vice president or his team. So they were close relations. There were also close relations with the United States and Syria, and even Hafez Assad benefited from this strategy too much. So they actually implemented two-pillar policy in international relations, and he preferred to take a stance on Soviet bloc as a close ally. However, he also implemented a strategy towards the United States to see a support for himself. So even Hafez Assad showed that if he left his power, so Islamists or Islamist-oriented parties would come to power. So the United States, at that time, the United States would pay more price to sustain his interest in the region. And that's why you may put extra discussion in Syrian foreign policy. And finally, your conclusion part needs a reorganization. It's very quick conclusion, and so I haven't seen a general frame and discussion of your thesis, your discussion, and even you may give us your findings regarding the main argument and main discussion, and also you may give your expectations regarding the future of Syria in short-term and mid-term process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. Very interesting observations. I was just telling Sana this morning that we have to work harder on the conclusion to sort of draw the different threads. And also, I think that your point is very important, how she was focusing more on differentiating between the different sort of aspects of Sunni Islam, but she did not look at how the regime used Islam broadly as a tool of legitimacy, and even the relations between the regime and very prominent scholars, etc. So I think this is important, as well as why it was not addressed in the way that she classified as civicide or genocide internationally, because of the international relations and because of the foreign policy. He managed across different decades to build a very solid alliance with East and West, and hence there are too many interests at stake. And hence this reluctance, which actually made the conflict prolonged in a way. Thank you very much for the...
I'm sorry, I just forgot one point. Sorry, Professor. Sana, you may also discuss about the similar ways of French mandates, demographical engineering, and Assad's demographical engineering. So as you mentioned in your thesis, Nusayris, Alawites, and Druze came to city centers during the mandate period. So it was very important turning point of Syrian political reality. Okay, so the minorities who were living in rural areas came to urban areas, so they turned to the part of Syrian political reality. And today, Assad regime tries to change demographic structure in Syria, and even maybe in near future, even if Assad goes, so the Shiitization or Baathification of the re-Baathification or re-Assadization of the Syrian political regime won't change the political status quo, even if he goes. And so there are important similarities between mandate regime and Assad regime's demographic engineering. So you may also touch this point. I'm sorry again.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah. We were discussing also a notion of degree of urban segregation, because also these communities were separated from the Sunni communities in terms of locations, which facilitated herbicide. One of our students who will be discussing tomorrow her thesis focused solely on that. I mean, this was the focus of her sort of architectural and urban analysis. She's a colleague of Sana as well. She took the other side of the sort of urban planning and urban design aspect. Yeah, and she might, you might also have a look at her thesis, Sana, when she defends tomorrow, and it might help you formulate some ideas. Okay, Professor Wahabuddin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to read such a beautiful and a very complex work. I say complex because Syria, like every other country, is a complex country, politically, religiously, economically, ethnically, you know. So therefore, to do a master thesis and deal with such kind of an issue, it is a challenge to a student to try to remain and stay focused. And I think most of the issues have been taken by Professor Hossein, and I don't think that I'll deal with it. And Prof. Heba, I think I will just raise some issues here and there. Maybe you can take those things into consideration, and then when you are doing the revision, and so that it can be, the purpose is that the work can be looked much better once it is put on the shelf. That is the whole thing. I think as I have observed it in your presentation style as well, you begin with some kind of deterministic conclusive statements. in your research questions, you talk about Holocaust, you talk about this, and then say it is ethnic cleansing, right? And you make a conclusion here that if it is ethnic cleansing, then why do you do the whole research? Why do you do your whole research? Your whole research collapses as soon as you say it is ethnic cleansing in your research question. So what you need to do is, don't tell anyone, just say, I would like to know whether it is ethnic cleansing or what. What is ethnic cleansing? What are the types of ethnic cleansing? How ethnic cleansing is different from Holocide massacre? Please leave us, raise questions and don't answer it. And as a researcher, you might know the answers, but please don't mention and don't bring your conclusion at your question stage. You will have to give it that one later, then say, okay, now I have done A, B, C, and D, it is done. Now I can know that it is ethnic cleansing. So you are answering your question and you make a conclusion later. Please avoid these type of things right in the beginning. And I think this is a tendency with mainly students and specifically master's students, because they know their conclusion sometimes before the writer, but I think that you don't mean that what it is. So please avoid that kind of approach. Keep us in a way, in somewhere hanging, that we are in search of finding answer to your question. So please try to do this and try to show whether this is ethnic cleansing or suppressing the oppositions. I think that point you need to somehow do. And I know in your ethnic, when you say ethnic cleansing, or when you're talking about what is ethnicity and what is ethnic cleansing and those things. So in your conceptual, in your theoretical framework, you are talking about what is ethnicity. So you establish the features of what is basically ethnicity and what is ethnic cleansing. And then you bring in the Syrian context into that picture and say, okay, yeah, now I can see these features were of ethnic cleansing in the literature. And now I can see what is happening in Syria. That is, now I can say it is ethnic cleansing. I know some people would argue that this is a suppression of the oppositions. I know the oppositions happen to be the Sunnis or this, but to me, it looks like, given the evidences, that it is an ethnic cleansing. And I think you can make your case in that way. So try to, because you are saying that not all Sunnis, and yet you are saying it is Sunni Islam. So if it is a Sunni Islam, then it will not be an ethnic cleansing. It will be suppression of a political ideology that is against the state, and it would like to remove the state. But yet you are bringing the argument of ethnic cleansing. So you need to be a little bit very careful when you are making these kind of statements. So please avoid these type of statements. Not all Sunnis are killed. Yeah, you can say, well, one can say that other ethnic groups are involved and there are sometimes oppositions and this, but the strategy, remember that the strategy that you're using which is used, it is mostly moving towards that kind of demography, that kind of, I know these individuals are political oppositions, but yet if they would be from other ethnic groups, probably the entire state strategy would have been very much different. So I would like you to really look into that balance that you are making, so that you make your logical argument by putting your problem that is what is ethnicity, and then you go in and talk about the demography which you're saying. So, and then you come up and make your argument very clear. And as I think Professor Hossein put it, all the other conclusions that you are making, you put it under the findings. And I think he rightly suggested that your conclusion needs to be somehow reorganized, where you can put it findings. Under findings that you bring in your argument, what you found. Findings are what you found. What are your conclusions that you are making in this thesis or in this piece of research? So maybe take all those, whatever you have conclusive here and there, put it under the findings. And then what do you suggest? I think Professor Sen put it as expectations, and I use the word recommendation. What do you suggest? what can be done in order that to get, you know, if a state does this, what the international community can do, what the local communities can do, what neighbors can do, what others. So maybe if you have some ideas and some views that if you have, you can you can do this. Maybe one last point. You need to, you have spent a little bit of time, or almost quite, on the history. You're talking about the French mandate, you're talking about independence, and then before the uprising. And remember that your work is mainly on ethnic cleansing that is happening now. But your most of writing is almost 50%, 40% is on your history. How do you relate that to? I know that is very important. You can't go without history. And you know, and these things wouldn't have been possible if historically things wouldn't have been structured the way a society is structured, the state, the demography, the constitutions, the group in power. So you need to put those things. And I think in your conclusion, you need to tie that together and say that, well, why the ethnic cleansing was possible. It was possible because of its history, because of its power structure and the political structure. All those things have happened. So when you bring it into the conclusion, maybe a paragraph, you know, I'm not saying that you have to make a 5, 6, or 7 argument. No, a paragraph, so that it tells us that, yeah, history plus what is happening now, they're tied together, and then you are making a conclusion out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor. Would you like to respond, Sana? Would you like to add something? Explain. You have the floor.
Before she starts, can I add one more thing as well?
Go ahead.
Please remove this word lack of accurate information from here and there. You know, you're saying I don't have accurate information, and yet you are making a thesis. You know, in the challenges you mentioned in the very beginning, that I'm facing, one of the challenges that I have lack of accurate information. Please remove the word accurate information. Just say that I have not received any cooperation from the regime involved in this. So the moment you say you don't have accurate information, you're defeating your purpose. Yeah, you're defeating your purpose. You see the same thing we can say in different ways. I have a challenge. I faced difficulties. The difficulty was that I wanted to get access to certain information, but unfortunately, due to the regime's interference, I was not able to have access to it. So therefore, I'm making my conclusion based on the data information available to me. We understand that there are information which are hidden from you, and you as a student, we know you will never be able to have access to this information, even whatever it is. So we look at your methodology, we look at your analysis, we look at how you have handled everything. We don't want you to really have, oh, the accurate information is not there, Sana cannot write a thesis. No, I don't think that will be fair to treat Sana like that. But we will help Sana to tell Sana, please remove the words which are quite sensitive. Say, lack of, my challenge is I don't have accurate information. So as soon as you say I don't have accurate information, Sana, then why you're writing the thesis? You get what I'm saying? But you say the same thing by saying I could not receive cooperation and I couldn't have access to certain, and I contacted certain groups and they were not cooperating. Finished. So you are telling us you couldn't get access to the very sensitive data that you needed.
And hence replaced it by this and that approach.
Exactly.
Like
and then therefore
comparison,
therefore
reports
I
and
did
statements.
this, I did that, so that to make sure that I would like to present. Therefore, that is methodologically you are presenting as a very good argument by what you have, so that we can accept your argument. But if you tell me I have no data to write, then how would I have no accurate data, then how would I be able to but later you say, I have done this. So I remove the word accurate and just put those other things. There was lack of cooperation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Sana, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I thank you all for your valuable recommendations and questions. I would like just to say that I'm still actually working on the thesis with the help of the Dr. Hiba. So there are points like the conclusion, like the last finding. So I was still working on them. I did not finish them, but of course, I'm very much obliged for you to remind me to take more consideration of them. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Sana. Thank you very much. Okay, I will ask the participants here with us to leave the room, please, so we can, as the jury committee, have a discussion amongst ourselves and then come back when we invite you in again, please. Okay, give us like 5 minutes or so. Sign out and then sign in again. Neslihan Hanim, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you have the authority to sign people out?
Of course.
Okay. Because some of them open the camera, obviously, and might not be on their laptop or devices.
Yeah, please don't sign me out as well.
No. we barely managed to get you in, Jan. Difficulty.
Yeah.
Say now too, right?
Yes, please. Yeah, Sana has to leave for some time.
Okay.
Okay. So, what do you think about the thesis? I mean, do you think that we can let her pass, and she has a month to sort of complete and you know, fill the gaps and do the corrections here and there and changes?
Professor, as you know, we have two options. We will find her successful and we will let her pass.
Yes.
Or we will give her extension for 3 months.
Yes.
However, in my opinion, we touch some requirements or some relevant points in thesis to improve, to develop it. However, I think 1 month is highly enough to complete those chains. So the thesis is also would be good contribution to literature in Turkey.
Yeah.
Although it was written in English. So my opinion is positive.
Okay.
And I support for her passing.
Okay, she's a hardworking student, by the way. Yani we will start right away. She was already working on I told her the conceptual analysis is a very theoretical, sort of has a very theoretical sources, and I'm helping her out with that. She was focusing more on the interviews and all the historical data, etc. So she will work on the conceptual analysis as an introduction, how to verify the differences and concepts construction and usage and terms, etc. And also all the remarks that you mentioned of linking the beginning of historical narrative to the developments and the demographic changes and how they occurred and everything that you mentioned. She can do it. She has the data. She needs just the analytical sort of sections to be completed and the conclusion in this regards, Yani. So I think that this can be easily done within a month, Yani. What do you think, Wahabuddin Hoja?
No, I'm positive, and I think what Professor said, I concur. And it's a master thesis, and I think the student has everything there on paper. So it's just a matter of taking this, putting here, and this thing,
polishing.
And, like just deleting a word like accurate, as I said. And Hojam, you can take care of those, and you're following, students doing under your work. So I'm sure that the students will do a good job. So we conquer that students should be awarded.
Yeah, she did a lot of effort, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can see, and the issue is not a simple issue as well, as I told you. It's a very complex issue, and dealing with so many theoretical, practical, political, and all those things is not a simple issue of a master thesis at that level. to do this. You know,
this is a funny thesis, by the way. She came back to me after you know, a lot of discussions, etc. She disappeared, and then she focused for a few months, and she came back to me with 220 pages.
Oh.
With all the data not very well organized. She went very horizontal. So I said to her, no, we have to go vertical. So try to summarize, put things together, prioritize, delete, you know, so a lot of quotations. So I said to her, no, you have to sort of minimize or at least shorten the different quotations, sometimes quotation for a full page. You know, she did a lot of hard work. I mean, it was not easy for her. I'm struggling with another student now. Actually, I was in his jury. I'm not his supervisor, but I'm trying to help because all students are ours at the end of the day.
Exactly, yeah, students. And
yeah, he came to the discussion with 35 pages. You know, so between the two, I was like, no, I mean, this is impossible, you know.
And also we need to look into this. This is a thesis plus coursework program. It's not a thesis only. If a coursework student has done almost 90% of a coursework, and that is like I constitute like a 10% somehow. But I think the student deserve to be given that pass, and under your supervision, I think she will be able to submit a good paper.
I will follow, inshallah.
Inshallah, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, professors.
Welcome.
Okay, Neslihan Hanem, we can invite everyone back.
Okay.
But why these postgraduate people are joining us?
Because of the some family members, but also graduate students, and also the center that supported the scholarship for the students.
Okay. I got the point. Yeah.
Is anyone waiting?
Sana is quite worried. Looks quite worried. I don't know why.
No, don't worry, Sana. مجموعة التفكير الاستراتيجي ممكن تدعو لنا أبو سالم. Let me pull Anas. Sorry, give me a second, please.
There is no student in waiting room. Hoca.
Okay, give me a minute, please. الإخوة في مجموعة التفكير الاستراتيجي لو يتواصلوا مع أبو سالم يدخل معانا. Okay, we will wait for just a minute and then conclude.
ربما لم يسمعك أستاذة.
Yeah, يبدو ذلك. I sent a message and I'm waiting for 1 minute and then we can go ahead.
Maybe we didn't tell them to wait and they were just thought they have left.
نحن في انتظار مجموعة التفكير الاستراتيجي. توصلنا بأبو سالم إذا بيحب يقول كلمة.
مجموعة تنتظر لمجموعة التفكير أستاذي. جماعة تنتظر.
Okay, no worries. We here acknowledge actually the cooperation with the strategic thinking group. And the head of the group was attending at the beginning and then switched his camera off upon my request. So we would like to cherish the cooperation that we had that provided the student with the scholarship. The scholarship was in cooperation with this group that is very much interested in empowering Arab students in the university and trying to sort of establish a proper academic cooperation with Ibn Khaldun University. So I needed to mention that and thank them very much for their support for Sana and also other students in this regards to be able to finish their scholarships. Okay, Sana, congratulations. The committee agreed that you have done your best. A little bit more to be done together, me and you, in the coming days, couple of weeks, inshallah. But thank you very much for your effort, and you have passed this stage, and looking forward to be again in touch for your PhD thesis one day, inshallah. Maybe we can also attend this event either in Ibn Khaldun or in any other. Don't forget to invite us, inshallah. Then good luck, and thank you for everything. Where is your little daughter?
My daughter and my son is.
Can we please have a look at them, so at least we take them on screen?
Yeah,
and I can take a picture. I'm a mother of 3, and I know the struggle. So I think they deserve to be accredited as well and congratulated. Okay, mashallah.
MashaAllah.
So this is my daughter, and my son is coming too.
God bless, mashallah. What's her name?
Her name is Asma.
Asma.
Fatih.
MashaAllah.
Tamam.
What's his name?
فاتح.
محمد.
فاتح. شكرا يا فاتح عشان ساعدت ماما كتير عشان تخلص الرسالة. شكرا. بوس ماما بقى عشان هي عملت شغل كبير مهم. شكرا يا فاتح.
Thanks a lot for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your effort and patience.
No, it's our pleasure, and inshallah we'll continue together the work.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Wahabuddin and Mr. Muhammad.
Congratulations, Sana. Wish you all success in your life.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Congratulations,
inshallah.
See you, inshallah. Thank you, professors. Professor Hussein, this is a pleasure. This is the first time you share with us
It's my pleasure, Professor.
a committee, and inshallah more to come. And inshallah, I hope to meet you soon face to face when the university is open again. Either you come over to Medit or I come have coffee at Marmara University, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Other colleagues, inshallah. Okay. Thank you, Wahabuddin Hoja. Thank you, Sana. And I thank everyone. Neslihan Hanem, thank you very much for your effort in organizing all our committees.
You're welcome, Hojam. Thank you.
We appreciate. I think that I have to turn to you the signature of the juries. So I will send them the form, inshallah, to sign.
Inshallah, just send it to us. We will send it back. Thank you very much, Hojam. Thank you, Professor Hussein. Inshallah, we'll meet again soon.
Inshallah, Professor. Very soon, inshallah.
Thank you, inshallah. I appreciate your help.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Have a nice day. Bye.
You too.